Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not a card game to shy away from adding additional card types. We've seen this throughout even Series 1 OCG with fusions, effect monsters, and ritual monsters. Later series would shift more towards monster abilities like Toons, Unions, and Geminis. It wouldn't be until Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds where we'd start to see new card types, starting with Synchro monsters. While each main series would add upon this extra deck mechanic, the main deck has stayed tried and true with its simple monster spell trap system. The one exception to the rule that you may know about is in Speed Duel, a side game stemmed from Duel Links. Speed Duel introduces skill cards, special cards that are played outside the main and extra deck for a unique mechanic. The back of these cards feature a character from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series to represent the skill being used, like Christine. Wait, who the hell is Christine? These are the backbone of Speed Duel and can offer a variety of playstyles and anime factors. Have a skill that acts as Toon World, or a Weevil skill that constantly breaks the meta. In many ways, the concept is reminiscent of the deck master mechanic from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime's Virtual World arc. I'm sure many of us, including myself, once played a few matches with this made-up rule, a mechanic that allows you to use a monster from your deck as an outside resource with a unique effect. You're also allowed to summon the monster, but if it's destroyed, then you lose the duel. Magic the Gathering Commander, anyone? Although, this is not to say the idea was born here in the anime. The idea of character-themed cards stems way back in the OCG. On December 21st, in the year 2000, the OCG received the valuable Book 3, a price catalog book that came with special promotional cards. Aside from Rocket Warrior and Nightmare's Steel Cage, the book was known for 3 unique cards called character cards. These individually colorful cards featured Yugi, Kaiba, Pegasus, and Joey, each with their own effect. So the question is, how do these 4 very unique cards work? When looking at VB3, the CCs were explained as a new way to duel in celebration of the new year. The cards work by first having an agreement with your opponent that you'll play with these special rules that follow the CCs. Then you place the card left of the field and proceed to play. According to the book, this will make dueling 200 times more fun. Didn't think there was anything higher than 10 times, let alone 200. I wonder what 1,000 times fun is. Subscribing to the Janjo Zone, perhaps? Note that both players do not need to have a copy. It must also be stated that the cards cannot be used in official tournaments.
Of course you can't. You have to cut them out of the book. And they're huge.
Clearly, Konami wanted these to be a special one-time thing and not a main mechanic. Which is interesting to think about, that they didn't consider these to be anything worth further discussion, at least until Duel Links over a decade later. Surely there had to be some employees that pushed for this or had further ideas back then. Although, given the game was still in its early years, I wouldn't be surprised if the higher-ups wanted to keep the game true to the expert rules established in the 1999 starter book and not bring an outside rule aside from this optional promotion. The OCG during Series 2 still had the expert and junior rules around, which was enough confusion. That said, what do these 4 cards even do? And don't forget, if you want to help support the channel and my archival agenda, then make sure to support me via Patreon for as little as $2 a month or $7 a month for the hardcore homies. If you don't, Okada will come to your house and give you the Rainmaker. Let's start with the card Yugi. Its effect reads, your field becomes Yami. Fiend and Spellcaster type monsters gain 200 attack and defense. Fairy type monsters lose 200 attack and defense. You can normal summon Dark Magician with 1 tribute. During each of your standby phases, you lose 300 life points. So you get not only Yami, but an easier way to get out Dark Magician just with a small life loss per turn. And since this is played outside the field and considered a rule more than a card, you don't have to worry about it getting destroyed. Assumably so. Something to point out is that Dark Magic Curtain was released 2 days later in Premium Pack 4. This spell lets you pay half your life points to special summon a Dark Magician from the deck. In some ways, it's better than Yugi, but having both options by the end of the year certainly didn't hurt the Dark Magician deck as a casual strategy. Then there's Joey, or Janoichi, that reads, Each time a monster you control battles, it gains 800 attack. Monsters you control cannot attack the turn they are summoned. This plays into the typical Joey strategy of, I'm just gonna attack. It's pretty good too, because it's not just when you attack, it's when your monster battles, meaning it can be used during either player's turn. And 800 is a great buff since the highest standard buff you could get is Acts of Despair with a 1000 attack gain, which only affects a single monster. Otherwise, you had the quick play spell Rush Recklessly that only nabbed you 700 attack for the turn. And in Yu-Gi-Oh!, linguistics is important, as the wording makes it so that when your monster gains the attack, they don't lose it at the end of the battle or the turn's end. Whoa. In addition with Joey, you don't need to worry about card loss since it's always active. While the summoning sickness drawback is rather unfortunate, again, you still get the buff while on the defense, so your monsters have a higher chance to survive till the next turn. Up next we have Kaiba, which does the following. At the start of the duel, choose one type. All monsters on your field, hand, and deck become that type. You start the duel with 4 cards. If you have more than 4 cards in your hand during the end phase, you must discard until you have 4 cards. An insta DNA surgery? Cool. Start the duel with 4 cards? Not cool. And you can't keep more than 4 cards during the end phase? Super lame. But, it's a DNA surgery for your field, hand, and deck. That's interesting. Flute of Summoning Dragon on any monster, Kazejin, Barrel Dragon, Summon Skull, oh my. While this would be a bit before cards like Dark Paladin, Pyramid Turtle, or Rivalry of Warlords, the concept of force changing your entire deck's type to be monochromatic has some thought-provoking applications. Finally, we have Pegasus with the effect of, during your main phase, you can pay 1000 life points. Add 1 card from your deck to your hand, you start the duel with 6000 life points. This is a way to make you feel like Pegasus and his Millennium Eye, knowing your cards and having the perfect counter to any situation. Searching any card is undoubtedly powerful, with the caveat being you start with 6k life and you have to pay 1k to search, meaning that your LP threshold is going to be very low depending on how much you search. Notice how the card is not once per turn, so you can search up to 5 cards turn 1. Forget about Cyberstein, you can search Exodia in 1 turn. Yikes! That alone makes Pegasus the best character card of the bunch. It's a shame these didn't take off more. I mean, ignore the broken nature of some of them and how we view skill cards today, and you could see a fascinating mechanic for the TCG. A mechanic that never was. And what's even wilder is that this goes even further back with the Bandai game. This ancient relic of a card game had CCs that were built in the main deck as monster adjacent cards that had weaker stats but powerful effects. I won't go more into these as this video is focused on the VB3 promos, and I can always save the Bandai stuff for future Bandai related content if you all are interested. But this is to say that CCs have been in Yu-Gi-Oh's lifeblood since the original card game, popping up every now and again, showing that the idea never truly died, especially considering where the game is now with them. But what do you all think? Should this have been a mechanic developed further early on, or was it right for Konami to save it in their bag of goodies until the right format came along? Janjo character card when?